off my like microphone on my MacBook when I've got headphones in, so I just changed my headphones.
Crazy.
Isn't that fucking entertaining and smart?
It is.
Yeah,
It is entertaining and
that's
smart.
it's a genius thing to do.
We
And to
are
say
too. I think, not to toot our
we
own
are
mutual horns,
geniuses.
not to lean over and toot your horn, but I think we are geniuses.
Yeah, very good number 3. Should we
Should we talk
kick?
about this amazing man
Yes,
one more time? Mishima, mate. Talking
Mishima. You got
Mishima.
to say Mishima.
We're talking Mishima. We're talking chapters 4 and 5 of The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea.
These take you about 3 minutes to read in total.
Yeah, I know. I read it like 4 times today. It's not like it's very quick. Well, would you like to give us I don't know, would you like to talk about this wonderful chapter of this wonderful, interesting man?
We'll talk about chapter 4. This is like the Ryuji chapter. This is the one that actually goes into who Ryuji is and why is he like he is, which is why is he a really weird and depressed man.
I don't think it actually does explain that personally, because the excuses he gives is not quite congruent with the way he acts.
I don't know. I think it's well. Yeah, I mean, we're getting into it now. The origin story of seems like his childhood kind of sucked. Like I guess like a lot of Japanese kids who grew up in the 40s, it wasn't the best time in the world to be Japanese.
I think nukes will probably do that. I mean, they're the only test case, so who knows? Maybe when he gets nuked to be great with it.
So he's anyway, he's a bit of an oddball. So this is post coitus, like it's the day after, and Fasako has said, okay, well, I'll see you later this afternoon. So this guy, this sailor, has to find a way to occupy himself for an entire day without a woman there to babysit him. And this sort of like allows Mishima to venture into a bit of of Ryuji's mentality, right? So he's sort of going over the previous night in his head, and you can tell he's got like some angst going around, So he sort of talks about I think he's a bit worried that that Fasako was picking up on his vibes, and he says he doubts a woman would understand what he's going through, which is it's very cute, right?
I don't think it is. I like this chapter actually repulsed me, I think, more than any of the other ones, just because he's so solipsistic in it. Like it's almost deranged the way he thinks of himself. Like he's got an absurdly high regard of himself, but he's also like it's like he's absorbed the surface level reading of Nietzsche without without actually having read it. Like he calls himself the only real man, and it's like, dude, you're a fucking loser.
But he's just like these kids, He's like a 15-year-old trapped in a 30-something-year-old's body. He's just like these kids, and it's the same sort of thinking. Anyway, we'll get onto that when we get on chapter 5, right? Like you'll be able to see some of the parallels. He sort of simultaneously grew up quick and never grew up. So that I'll read or paraphrase the passage about this, right? So his father, a civil servant, had raised him and his sister single-handed after their mother's death. The sickly old man had worked overtime in order to send Ryuji to school. Despite everything, Ryuji had grown up into a strong, healthy man. Late in the war, his home had been destroyed in an air raid, and his sister had died of typhus shortly after. He had graduated from the Merchant Marine High School and was starting his career when his father died too. His only memories of life on shore were poverty and sickness. So this is sort of to say that he didn't have the easiest upbringing. He's got no family left, and he sort of associates life on shore with this horrible sort of upbringing he had.
I don't know. This is where Mishima tends to lose me a bit when he talks about people in precarious economic situations, because they're never in that during the story, almost ever. Like he almost never writes stories about people in poverty currently, or like a class differential that's significantly impacted by people's economic status. It's more class status. But when he talks about like poor people, it's always in the negative. They're always starving. They're always sick. They're always,
Yeah.
or I came from a position where I used to be a prostitute, or, all these undignified um, things that are put upon the poor because he's never had to do it himself. He was never poor in his entire life, Mishima. He lived in the lap of comfort his entire life in a very poor country. Like pre-war Japan was incredibly poor and had a very high poor population. And it was only
Yeah.
worse in the post-war period, which is probably the closest he came to being poor, but he was supported by his family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I find his like the most one-dimensional view of his work is when he's talking about people in lower socioeconomic brackets. Um, it's very blinkered, and but again, he has no interest in it, obviously.
No,
There are,
and I mean even Ryuji, even though he's earning like a middle class wage, he's got sort of middle class education. He's a drifter, right? Or he's a drifter in the sense that he has no permanent home. He lives on a boat. He sails the seas. So it's not even like he's part of traditional society because he's just absent from it most of the time.
yeah, and I think that the intent of the book is clearly to present a clash of different classes. The upper class Japanese merchant compared with the labourer, who despite his semi-high office, he's still on like a shitty boat. That's
Yeah, yeah, he's on like one of the original tiny little fucking yeah. I know. He describes it actually.
it's like a cargo ship, but it's for like it's not like a big company. It's like one that takes spot jobs to
Yeah,
gap fill.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's not a big one.
Which he actually names it in this chapter, and I had to look up what the fuck does this mean. It's because he says he returned briefly to the Rikyo, which is the boat. Um,
Procure Maru, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but I had to look it up because it's been a while since I read this.
But he goes on straight after that. He goes, okay, well, despite all my misery, here's what I really want to talk about, and it's just this soliloquy about the sea. I don't know if you really want to get into this. It's nice, and I think it's very pertinent and relevant. I just
I think it's very naive and cringy.
well, it's very on theme with the book. This is at the start of I was going to say at the page. We'll probably have different editions, but where it starts with he wanted to talk about the sea, he might have said something like this. So it's even like he's rehearsing this little monologue in his head.
Hmm. Which I suspect he probably spends a lot of time thinking about cool things to say because he says a lot of things that appear to be like well thought out and cool, and they come across as hugely alienating and bizarre when people actually interact with him.
Yeah. To a man locked up in a steel ship all the time, the sea is too much like a woman. So true.
Yes, and you're like the beautiful human submarine within that woman.
Yeah, you like the midget submarine, and I'm the proper size submarine.
Uh, this guy would be like a Vor guy. Oh, the ship. Oh, fuck, the ship's eating me. No, don't eat me, ship.
But there's no discussion of bosom or anything anyway. It's so like he sort of gets into that. He's thinking about, he's remembering Pasako, and I don't think we need to get too much into that. It's not even dirty. It's just he's thinking about the clothes she was wearing.
But I think he is very self-reflective in this chapter. Like he
Yeah.
does, regret the stuff that he talked about, and how could I have talked so goddamn badly? All that sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
He's obviously very much, I wouldn't say in love, but he's smitten. Um, he very much likes this woman. He can't stop thinking about her. He thinks very nice things about her.
Hmm. I did like his naive romantic dream that he sort of gets into, where he's the paragon of manliness, and his ideal lover or wife or whatever he was planning on doing is the consummate woman. They come together in chance encounter, and death weds them. So obviously I would say he watches too many YouTube videos, but he's clearly read too many shitty books written in the 50s.
Yeah, yeah, like really just sort of sappy romance stuff. I get it. I know.
They come together and they die, and that's the romantic relationship. But he sort of misses the emphasis or like the point of it being tragic when people die, and it's not like it's not romantic.
Well,
That's
it's
not the
about
emphasis.
him, like,
Yeah, the
you know.
emphasis is that it's exciting because it's tragic, and ideally, if you're in a romantic love with someone, you would just live with them and be in love with them.
Yeah,
But that's sort
yeah,
of like uh, escapes his limited scope of understanding.
yeah. It sort of goes back to my view that he's just a teenager on the inside.
I think that he does realize, like as I said, he's self-reflective, but he also realizes how stupid some of the shit he says is, because he's so self-conscious about that dream that he hadn't even been able to share a fragment of this mad dream.
Yeah,
Instead, he talked to vegetables.
yeah. But when we've all been there as well, is that you're talking. Well, I don't know. When was the last time you dated? But for me, like I find myself doing it all the time. Right? Is you're talking to a beautiful woman and you're just trying to keep the conversation going. So of course you go into stupid topics like fucking vegetables.
Like, I don't want to just spend the whole chapter criticizing him because there are some good
Mm.
bits. But before he talks about the sea, he talks about, or sorry, he thinks about his parents, and he sort of gives a rough rundown to Fasako about his parents. And after he explains how his sister died, his father died, he was healthy, he went to merchant marine school. Exultation swelled Ryuji's voice when he touched upon the misery in his life. And while he
Hmm.
was recalling the total in his bank book, he couldn't help digressing from the sea's power and benevolence, which was the story he had longed to tell in order to boast about his own prowess, like a very ordinary man indeed. Again, we've all met a Ryuji. Like, how fucking hard have I got it? But I made it. I'm rich now. I've got $70,000 in my bank account.
Yeah, here's my wisdom.
Great, dude. But she sucks. She likes it. She loves his prattle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she thinks it's cute. In fact, she wonders a little bit whether, I think at the start, I recall she's wondering whether he was deflecting a bit as well. Anyway,
And then he tries to sing to her, but he can't remember the song.
oh, which is pathetic.
I
I'm sorry. It's
think it's a
just
wonderful song, she said. That's the most like you are getting a root tonight phrase I've ever heard written
just
down.
imagining singing to a woman. What are you doing as a grown man singing?
But then like not even being able to finish it and her still
Yeah.
being like,
Oh, that was
I'm
pretty good.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like his like Mishima's description of Fasako, because I sort of get the impression that she's got a good body, but she's fairly plain otherwise. Because
Mm.
Ryuji seems to emphasize her elegance,
Yeah.
and her breast and her curve, but he does it sort of not really explicitly. Like, he, instead of describing her face as lovely or beautiful or whatever, he talks about how good she smells,
Yeah.
how delicate she is,
Yeah. How nice her shoulders
what
are.
she's wearing, her
Yeah.
milky face,
Yeah.
seductive crimson through the black lace, the robe shifting fantastically from crimson through all shades of purple at every subtle movement of her body. And he detected within the shadowed folds of cloth the hushed breathing of the woman's own folds. God, I fucking love Machine.
Yeah, that's
That's so sick.
yeah, it's such a just I can smell that from here.
He's so good. Um, but then
And that is a man who has slept with a woman, by the way. Like that's,
yes,
like you can only visualize or olfactorialize that if you've been there. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and then as he's talking about the voluptuous shoulders,
Yeah.
um, and thinking about grabbing her boobs, um, he then has a has a random thought inserted in the middle of his sexual fantasy of an odd, silly story once the captain told him about going to Venice and visiting a beautiful little palace at high tide. Like, he's such a fucking dork.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, let me just take a moment from this examining your boobies to think about philosophical matters.
yeah. Like being a tourist.
Please talk more, Fasako begged, and he knew it would be all right to kiss her. I don't think you should talk more, dude. Personally, I think you should probably talk less.
I make that mistake all the time. Don't worry.
But
Do,
we read this to learn from the master.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm learning a lot about Japanese society in the '60s, at least.
I did like I mean, not to get too explicit, although the book's not really that explicit. Talking about the sex, it's a very naturalistic impression of sex.
Yeah,
They clutched each other and collided in frenzied, awkward movements like beasts in a forest lunging at a ring of fire.
yeah. That's. I mean, it's nice to think like that's a nice way of describing sex.
Well, it's a nice way to describe like awkward sex when you don't really know the person, you don't know what they want or what really you want.
Oh, the best kind.
Just
Anyway,
the animalistic,
yeah, yeah,
uh, you know, thrusting. I think that's like, why do we have to have pleasant descriptions of sex when like, or even unpleasant ones, when things like this that are sort of removed from any sort of
yeah,
morality are far more evocative, I think.
yeah. But I mean, for a lot of people, they want pornography in words. So
Yeah.
that's probably a personal preference thing. Should we skip forward to where where he sort of snaps back to reality and he finds a young boy on his travels.
Mm.
There's literally 3 lines here. I will say this part of the chapter is also a recurring theme throughout the rest of the book. Ryuji is wandering and he sees a group of boys. He sort of describes them a little bit, but then he immediately thinks there was something about Noboru this morning, almost as if he knew. So, so I think I forget if in the last chapter his mum was talking about it, but his mum also gets that sense, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's sort of like indicated that there's some sort of knowledge that they sense
yeah,
from him.
there's
Um,
an intuition. So then he sees Noboru and he sort of does this weird, like, I'm guessing
oh
like a what
man,
me worry sort of grin. Hey, small world, isn't it? Have a good
fucking
swim.
hell. Hey,
And
boy.
yeah. Hello, little boy.
And the
Um,
soaking wet, because you skipped over that part,
oh
which
yeah,
I will get
sorry.
into next. But a soaking wet man who's like put his shirt up, like a slutty muscle builder, bodybuilder over his
Yeah,
six pack.
yeah. The Beijing bikini.
Yeah, may as well be like rubbing oil into his pecs while he's talking to them.
Yeah, hello. You have a good swim, and then he's just like looking at him, being like, "Fuck this guy," and he's like, "How did you get your shirt wet?" And Ryuji's response is, "What this?" Imagine it. What?
What are you
What
talking? Oh,
this?
this. Oh, this, as I gestured to my
And he
ripped
he
body.
does the artificial smile, the "What me worry" smile, and then I took a little shower in the fountain up there in the park.
Oh man, I could not get over like, oh, I've got water all over myself. How how silly is that?
God, I'm such a fucking idiot.
His shirt was drenched, but he didn't bother to take it off. The sun would dry it quickly
But
enough.
that's where it ends, right?
Yeah, what a fucking
Like,
freak! Like, he is the weirdest guy. So it's 4 o'clock. His date with Sasako is at 6. The coffee shop had color television. Oh, that's what I was supposed to mention. It was a color
oh
TV,
yeah,
so that's
yeah,
dating it.
yeah. It's the
Um,
'60s, definitely.
wouldn't be anything interesting on at this hour of the day. So while he's hanging around, this is an adult man. He chooses to go to a park and play a mischievous game of, I guess, like putting his finger over the lip of the bubbler and spraying water at himself. What the fuck?
Yeah,
And then he
and
shakes himself off.
like a dog. Yeah,
What a fucking freak.
and this is 2 hours before his date.
Yeah, that's right. There are so many things in this where it's just like, oh, I'm this deep man who's also quite naive, and I say silly things, but I regret them. But I'm also, I've got a bit of time. Let's soak myself in a bubbler in a public park and not get arrested for that somehow.
Well,
Strange man.
mate, yeah, very, very weird. Like, just, yeah, very odd man. Anyway, we'll have time to unpack him another time, I
We
think.
will. Well, we better move on to chapter 5,
Yeah,
Ben, which is
that's what
the
I was
one that
thinking.
upset all those Germans on Goodreads, Amazon. I think the
Oh,
Germans are on
yeah.
Amazon, but there was
Oh,
one
yeah.
Russian guy on Goodreads who went fucking off.
If it was a
Like,
Russian, I think they'd be in favor of what we're about to describe.
of cruelty.
Yeah.
So we may as well front load this.
Oh, yeah. What's it about? It's
So
about.
no, I'll go through this one.
Okay.
This is a chapter about we're introduced to Noboru's little gang from school, the chief, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5, or number
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, there's number one as well. I remember that.
Noboru is number 3. Smallish, delicate boys and excellent students. In fact, most of their teachers lavished praise on this outstanding group and even held it up as an encouraging example to poorer students. So yeah, there's the kids from school. They're on their little escapade. And this is where the majority of the criticism for this book comes down. Because what they do is they go out, fuck about for a bit, find a kitten, uh, and then eviscerate the kitten, kill it, and use its blood and guts to be rubbed on their body um, for what appears to be like an initiation ritual, like a manhood ritual of some sort. But I think it's not quite. I don't think Noboru quite gets it. I think the chief and Noboru are on two different levels here
Yeah.
with what they're trying to do. And yeah, it's quite viscerally described. The when they cut the kitten apart, it's quite nasty. It's not written in like a way where it's viscerally disgusting, but obviously what's being described is pretty. It's if you butchered something before, you know what they're talking about. But if you haven't, I think it would probably seem pretty gross. Have you ever had to kill a chook or anything?
No.
It's
No.
basically how he's describing it is when you kill a chicken and cut it open. That's what this looks like.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like the closest I've come is I've gutted fish, and that's still
Yeah,
a pretty grotty experience because you can
yeah.
see the parts, you know what they are.
So that's the chapter ends with the ordeal finishing, and I think Noboru n- thinking he has a epiphany, but I don't think he really has the epiphany he thinks he does.
Yeah,
Um, but I'll get more into that as we go through it.
yeah. We
Um,
need to describe this little disgusting group of monsters.
yes. So, well, we only really get a description of the chief
Yeah,
and Noboru, but by implication, the rest of the children are, of a similar sort of persuasion.
yeah. It's a gang of six, which makes Noboru number four, like the fourth. So he's number three, but they've got a chief and number one, but the number one is subordinate to the chief.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah,
bit unclear whether there actually is a hierarchy or whether they're just, just a gang.
yeah, yeah. I never really thought about it that much, to be honest. I just thought they were just like some weird little, you know, precocious teenager thing.
I think it's funny how, well, I don't think it's funny. I think he's a little fucking creep. He's bragging about spying on his mum, but he's also, it seems like he is like, I don't know, maybe a bit more sexually impressed by Ryuji than it first seems, because he describes him as a fantastic beast that's just come out of the sea all dripping wet. And last night I watched him go to bed with my mother. And then he excitedly tells his little creepy mates about his mum getting rooted.
But I think it's this sort of this relationship that he had with Ryuju, that that was like like I think he actually really did look up to him, at least at one point. But anyway, like, there's maybe a discussion for a bit later in the book, but he.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of like it may I think in a limited way there is something to what Ryuji thinks of himself as a great person or someone that's destined for greatness or whatever. Because in this, obviously Noboru is impressed by him, but he also thinks that he's really going to do something, as though the way that Ryuji thinks about himself is unconsciously rubbed off on Noboru
Mm,
without him talking to him about it.
yeah,
So I guess he's got the charisma to impress a fucking psycho child, but that's about it. And his mum, I suppose.
yeah. Um, and maybe it's just worth reading this section. This is where I started to develop my theory that the chief is just it's the authorial voice of Mishima. But when you're reading through it, I think this is the part that started to convince me of that.
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of it portrays the chief as sort of like a guru of some variety
Mm,
who has a child's understanding of, like, I think I said previously that Noboru has like a very surface level understanding of existentialism, but I
yeah.
think the chief is a bit more developed, but is still quite naive and doesn't really sort of understands the concepts without the application.
Mm,
But because he knows a bit more than the other kids, they look up at him as a philosophical figure rather than,
yeah.
just a child who has read a fair bit more than the other ones. Like when he's talking about the meaningless of society and blah blah blah. Society is basically meaningless. A Roman mixed bath and school is just society in miniature. That's why we're always being ordered around. A bunch of blind men tell us what to do, tear our unlimited ability to shreds. But how about the sea? Noboru persisted. How about a ship? Last night, I'm sure I caught the meaning of the internal order of life that you talked about. I suppose a ship is permissible to a certain extent. Like, oh, well, yes, actually. Although I've just been corrected here, I will say yes. Perhaps I've given this more thought than it first
Hmm.
appears. Like he's got the speech patterns of a noble bullshit artist,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why I don't think he is Mishima. I think that this is someone that Mishima
No.
doesn't like. I think he's someone.
Like, but it's not like the verbatim voice, but it's like
No,
the messages that he's trying to convey in this novel are, like, I think, most explicit through the chief.
I think that this book is like filled with people misinterpreting Mishima and his thoughts and ideology
Mm,
about things. But this is really before he sort of had that, like it was written before he had that explicit political aim, although he obviously harbored those thoughts.
mm,
But oh, sorry, we do get a description of number 5 being a quiet, gentle boy.
hmm. I think they're all supposed to be fairly quiet and gentle.
Yeah, the smiles are boyish, innocent, blah,
Mm,
blah, blah. So this
yeah.
is, I think, rather than get into because it's not really much of a chapter, like he really
Oh,
just explains about
it's
the,
just a very dull and boring sort of prima secunda, like, dialogue between the students. Like, this is the stuff that we're talking about. Like, Machine was probably making fun of these people, but, like, there's a lot
yeah,
of this sort of backwards and forth, which I don't think is really that necessary to concentrate too much on.
yeah, but they are, I think there is like a precocious desire to become adult within this chapter. Like the whole thing is about identifying adults that they admire, adults that they find contemptible, and
Yeah.
then things that they do to sort of deaden themselves to being children. Like
Mm.
saying that Noboru had been trained in such a way that practically nothing sexual, not even the scene the night before, could surprise him. The chief had taken great pains to ensure that none of the gang would be astonished by such a sight. Like this is the '60s equivalent of getting on B on 4chan and
Yeah.
seeing a Chechen beheading video at age 13, as we
Yeah.
all did.
Yeah. I'll say for myself, I actually never actually saw any of that war shit, but I saw something horrible once anyway. Ugh.
That back in the day when that was fairly unregulated and vile.
Oh my god.
But it's like that these are kids who are sort of I think, I mean, I don't really overuse the word naive, but I think that they have a desire to grow up that's um, beyond what's normal. But I think it's also because they're so focused on that, and they're doing that to the exclusion of all others, and they're being led by someone who's sort of doesn't really understand what he's doing in the chief. They undertake these horrible actions like killing the cat and
Mm,
so on and so forth.
yes.
But what I wrote here, and this is my sort of understanding of the second half of this chapter. So the first half is sort of going over the chief, going over the kids, and so on and so forth. Eating lunch, having a discussion about various things that kids would ordinarily talk about. And then the second
Mm,
half is about killing the cat. So the kids get naked before they kill the cat as well. I don't know if that
yeah.
was, and they like, I think they wear gloves
Normal
or
behavior.
something. They do it in a shower so they can wash off all the evidence and all that sort of thing. So it's clearly been very premeditated, and it's been a plan that they've worked out in advance because they're all aware of what it is and what they intend to do.
Mm,
So I think the chief intends for the killing of the cat to be sort of like a coming of age ceremony. Um, but I don't think that Noboru, I think that he sort of goes into it with that impression, but I think he has a more transcendental experience than the others do. Because the chief says they insist to take such acts as this to fill the world's great hollows. Though nothing else could do it, he said, murder would fill those gaping caves in much the same way that a crack along its face would fill a mirror. Then they would achieve real power over existence. So they go and do this. Noboru kills the cat, and then they sort of talk about it and do the gross shit they do. But as the chief squeezes the heart between his fingers, Noboru sort of has an acute moment of, I don't know, awareness, I guess, where he sort of questions. Well, he says, "What is really happening here?" He'd withstood the ordeal from beginning to end. Now his half-dazed brain envisaged the warmth of the scattered viscera and the pools of blood in the gutted belly, finding wholeness and perfection in the rapture of the dead kitten's large, languid soul. I killed it all by myself. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead. A distant hand reached into Noboru's dream and awarded him a Snow White certificate of merit. I can do anything, no matter how awful. So I feel like what was supposed to be intended to be an adult making ceremony became for Noboru like the threshold where he realized he could become a psychotic or like a psychopath.
yeah.
Um, and that he has a level of spiritual fulfillment doing this that the others do not share. That's my impression anyway. But yeah, I don't know. What's your thought over it apart from them being ghoulish little creeps?
Oh, I'll be honest. I actually don't have much sophisticated thoughts about them killing the cat, other than that. I think this is to show them as these completely callous teenage boys, like just absolutely like in love with themselves and acting like just little shit teenagers would.
Yeah, I
This
think so.
isn't sort of fantasy what he's writing.
No,
It's real.
again, I think this is the departure between both of our upbringing, where I tend to go to public school in rough places, low income places,
Yeah.
and I went to school with kids who killed cats.
Yeah, this is what I mean, right? Like,
And they
as
weren't,
I'm saying, it's not fantasy.
no, but like I don't think they're still killing cats. At least I hope they're not.
Oh, they're
Um,
probably in jail. Like,
well, one of them is, but I don't think they all are. um, but it's like I don't know. You got a warped morality when you're a child, but I feel like Noboru has no, like he understands that it's warping him and relishes it
yeah,
rather than being repulsed by it.
yeah, I agree with that. Definitely.
But I don't know. Like we don't really get the reaction of the other kids. We just sort of assume that they feel the same way, although they didn't do it. They didn't have to kill the cat. Noboru had to kill the cat.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a yucky chapter, but I think I don't know. This is probably more more getting into our normal conversational wheelhouse, but I feel like if you're gonna read a book and get turned off by things like this to the point where you overlook the remainder of the book, like all the stuff that we've said about that's good, the descriptions, the evocation that he's so good at, the humor, all that sort of stuff, and you're like, well, no, I can't read this book because I'm so angry because he wrote about killing a cat.
Yeah, he wrote about
I,
killing a cat.
I think you should grow the fuck up, to be perfectly honest, and probably like just read the fucking book from cover to cover, and you don't
Yeah.
have to like it. But if you get up to chapter 5 and say, well, I have to, which a lot of people did, sorry, and I don't want to get on a tangent, but a lot of the reviews on Goodreads say I got up to the chapter where they killed the cat and then I couldn't keep reading. Why? Like, what did you think that the book written by the guy who killed himself in the middle of a coup wouldn't contain anything weird in it? Like, I don't know. I find it very
Uh,
strange.
I think it's because they were like, I want to seem culture. I'm going to read a Japanese author. What's the shortest book they've got?
But this isn't even his shortest book. Like
Really?
there are shorter
Oh,
books and nicer books that you could read.
I
Like,
like this book.
oh well, yeah, but like if you're gonna, well, Sound of Waves, for example, if you want to read a book of Mishima's that's 100% positively nice and is a great first book to read The Sound of Waves. But this is like reading The Wasp Factory by Ian Banks and being like, oh, well, I can't, you know, I couldn't, all the cruelty and so on. And it's like, that's the fucking point of the book.
Yeah.
The kids are fucking little bastards and occasionally are little bastards to the point that it's really fucking creepy. Like, if you want to read a book about some oaf romancing a MILF, I'm sure there's a
There's,
million
oh,
books
let me
out there.
tell you, brother, there are, yeah, I would say even billions of those books out at the moment.
I don't know. Like, I'm not going to get up people for not liking a book because it's personal taste. But if the reason you're not liking it is because there is a chapter in the book that has uncomfortable material, and you're going to discount the remainder of the book because of that, especially for someone like Mishima, who is everything is so it's so airy to read, but everything is so dense in there. It's like the opposite of a J.R. Tolkien,
Yeah,
where
you can
the
whip over it really quick.
yeah, and there's no need for excessive description because he's so evocative that you get a feel for the characters. You don't have to like everybody you're reading about, but they're interesting people. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
If you got to chapter 5 and you're like, oh, this kid is a bit of a fucking creep, actually turns out to be a complete psychopath. That's compelling, I would think. I mean, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Maybe it's my personal taste being like overriding my own good sense here, but I think it would be compelling to get to the 5th chapter of the book and be like, oh, he's actually a little fucking freak. How's this going to play out?
I think fortunately as well for him, it's like, I feel like it's not the peak, but really it doesn't get too much weirder from this point in. It's sort of, I feel like it's just a downhill slope of a little shit, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that if you like this book, I would say persist through the 5th chapter, because it's the content is so compelling that you'd just be doing yourself a disservice. And if you don't like reading about animal cruelty, then stop reading. Stop reading at what I have as page 45, but it is the sentence that says, not yet, but it won't take long to find one. Nothing will take long. After that, until the end of the chapter, a cat gets killed. There you go.
Yeah, I would just say, like, if you skipped over that section, like, you wouldn't miss much narrative wise, but you will not understand the last sort of quarter of the book.
Yeah, you
Like,
would
it won't,
you would misunderstand the entire character of Noboru.
yeah, but you also just wouldn't understand what the significance of anything is in the rest of the book. This chapter sets up, like, it completely sets up the rest of the book. Like, you need to read this to understand what's going forward, and you don't just need to know that a cat got killed by them. You sort of need to know how the boys are feeling, what they're talking about. Anyway, like I just think this isn't just sort of a frivolity of Mishima. This is like fundamental to the story.
Yes, I think so. It's the rising action. It's This is the thing that when you're reading the book should be the thing that twists your gut, and you read the rest of the book in a state of nervousness because you
Yeah,
know that he has an impression in his own head that he's capable of anything
yeah.
because he's done this one action. And without that, it sort of becomes just a bit of a strange story where you've got this kid that you know is creepy and has killed a cat, but not any of the emotional weight that carries. Which you know, it's no Hunger Games.
When you
It's
put it
no,
like that, he's creepy and he's killed a cat. It's really actually crystallized in my mind what kind of kid Ryuji is. Not
yeah,
Ryuji, Noboru is.
yeah. I think he's no Draco Malfoy, but he's a pretty bad kid.
But is
He,
Draco Malfoy, was he bad? I saw the first film like a
I think
long
he
time
killed
ago.
Dumbledore, or maybe that was Snape.
Same, man.
What a great name, Snape.
What a great series of books, man! Like I read them all when I was a teenager, and it was just
Snape.
one of those things I just never picked up again. And I always know that if there's something if there's a piece of media I don't look at again, it probably wasn't actually that good.
Yeah, I don't know. I reread it a couple of years ago. It's fine, but like I reread it when I was severely depressed as a way to keep my mind off it. So I read all 7 books in like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's really dire.
Yeah, it was pretty bad and didn't help at all. It was sort of like once that was over, I was like, oh fuck. But yeah, I don't. Probably not good books to read depressed. This would absolutely not be a good book to read depressed.
I don't think there's really ever a great time to read it, to be honest. But
No. Well, I mean, you read it because you like it.
yeah,
We're going to do a nice.
I've read it 3 times. Like it's on the list of media that I do think is quite interesting because I've read it multiple times.
Maybe next book we could do The Banquet
Harry
or
Potter.
something.
I'm
Harry
doing Harry
Potter.
Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
We'll read Kafka by the Shore and just like keep like saying that it's by Mishima.
Oh my god, that's actually a book I really enjoy, but I'm never going to read it again.
It's good the second time around.
Yeah,
I think I understood the story a lot better the second time I read it because it
yeah,
wasn't. But like the first time is magical to read it because you just
yeah,
you get so immersed in it without having to think
yeah.
about it. And
And
then the
everything that
second,
happens is a nice surprise. Like everything's a happy surprise. But then I guess rereading it would be maybe interesting or a bit depressing. I don't know.
no,
You
it's
probably notice a lot
interesting.
more.
It made a lot more sense to me. And there were plot holes that I didn't realize were plot holes because I wasn't paying attention that are resolved within the book itself that I wouldn't have even picked up on had I not read it a second time. But that one and Wind Up Bird. I mean, now we're talking about another Japanese guy. We're getting way too off topic here.
Yeah, I just like talking lit.
Well, let's
So yeah, we should wrap up and then we
yeah,
can
let's
pick
continue
up
talking later.
Kafka.
We'll talk Mish in the last 2 chapters of this part and on. Bye, Daniel.
Bye.